Welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. This podcast is a production of Elevate, an online learning platform for fundraising event professionals. We're coming to you today from the studios of the AV department. Please welcome our hosts, Kristen Steele and Samantha Swaim.
Well, welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. We're excited for today's conversation, but before we jump in, we want to make sure to remind everyone that coming up just around the corner in a short 2 months is the Elevate Conference. It is a 2-day deep dive into all things fundraising events. It is hybrid, so you can join us from anywhere you're located, and we want to make sure that you get all the information, that you get signed up. We also are beginning our free webinar series as a lead-in or a prelude to Elevate, starting at the beginning of February. So make sure you get signed up so you have all the details. You can find us at swaimstrategies.com. And today's guest is one of our sponsors and partners for both the podcast and the conference. We're so thrilled to have Matt here from Greater Giving to talk all things technology and fundraising events. So Kristen, why don't we introduce Matt to the team?
Let's do it. Matt Gibson has worked at Greater Giving since 2019, first as a customer success manager and currently as a premier accounts manager, providing consultations, trainings, and support to Greater Giving's largest customers. Matt previously worked as a development officer with the Alzheimer's Association and as an actor, director, and fundraising consultant in nonprofit theater. I love it. Development roots there. Welcome to the podcast, Matt.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Opening question. Biggest single opportunity for fundraising, night of an event, fund a need, special appeal, direct ask for cash, whatever that is. Paddle raise. It's caused regionally, people call it all kinds of things. But can you talk to us about what a fund a need is and its critical role in nonprofit fundraising?
Fund a need is a very mission-focused ask. And it often is the largest single component of an in-person auction or gala. It is the moment when you can get across your most powerful, impactful story, and the story of the people who you work with, who you benefit, the environment that you benefit, all your constituents, the people who work with you for a long time. And it generally is an opportunity where you have a very impactful speaker giving a short speech. There's usually a little video, a mission video. So those two things often kick off a really well-planned fund a need. And it generally also appears kind of in the middle of a live auction, live where you're doing the live packages. You take a little break, get into that fund a need, and you just rev the crowd up. And it's one of the most exciting things you can see at an in-person auction or gala.
It is. And with Greater Giving, you get to work with organizations all around the country. Do you see a difference in region? We see that when we're working with folks on the West Coast, there's a really big culture of paddle raise, fund a need. And in the Midwest, it's sort of starting to migrate that way, but it's taken a little bit longer. And then on the East Coast, again, big paddle raise community. Do you see differences regionally like we do?
That's a great question. I agree with you that the West Coast is really dialed in to the fund a need. And a lot of times most of the events that I've been to the last couple of years have been West Coast. I was at one in New Orleans a couple of weeks ago, and that was more of a wine charity-centric event, wine and food experiences. And those types of events tend to have a larger live auction component because they have very elaborate food, wine, and travel packages. I was at an event in Alaska, which is obviously West Coast, but it's its own thing.
Yeah.
And I would say I've been at that event 3 years in a row. Fund a need and live auction are kind of right there with each other, kind of equal parts. It really depends, yes, on the region. Where the event's being held, where the organization is based, but also the culture of the organization.
Yeah.
I'm learning that's a big part of it.
Yep.
Well, I think that as we start to see folks trying or adopting fund a need for the first time, that there's sort of a big picture question of how do we even do that? And I think if organizations have a live auction, it's a little bit easier for them to understand because they already have a paddle. They already have sort of instituted some of the logistics tools. But I think one of the key elements that we really lean on is our software platform. So, Matt, can you talk a little bit about how folks can leverage a fundraising software to really increase that fund to need and really like help to increase exposure, raise more money, get the folks involved, donor involvement with the event?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I was thinking about this, it's kind of interesting because the fund to need, if you on one hand, if you stop and think about it, the fund to need maybe doesn't really have a lot of technological components, right? It's people in the room
Mhm.
that,
Yeah,
right, raising their paddle. Like, how is technology involved there? But there are a lot of ways that technology can feed that. And going back to kind of that story element that I learned, really, that was hammered home when I was doing events with Streamline Support, and Swaim Strategies was on
yeah,
site.
Mhm.
We've probably done 20, 30
we
events
have.
Mhm.
together,
Mhm.
you know, and you are excellent about the story of a fund in need. And the fund in need is not if people are new to it, it's not like or they're newer to it. It's not like, uh, even if it's new to your event, it's not new to your organization, because really the fund to need is kind of an extension of it's similar to an annual gift, a legacy gift, a major gift. It's another major gift. In this case, it is tied into that gala auction bucket. So it's
Right.
not like you're inventing the wheel,
Yeah.
but
Mhm. Mhm.
you're putting it into the live event, right?
Yep.
Right.
And one of the things that I've seen with clients that we work with is that one of the first things they get up and running is their event website.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yep.
what, the when, the where. You have a tickets page, you have a sponsorships page, you have a hotel information page. And the organizations that do it really well, that have fund to need on the mind from the beginning, year round, they have a fund to need page
Yeah.
that is as fleshed out and compelling as a sponsorship page or an about the organization page. So on a sponsorship page, obviously you're selling these sponsorships, these tables to purchase for the event, and they have a fund to need page where they publish and make available for donation the exact same fund to need levels
Yeah.
that they would have in person. And there's a couple things there that are going on. One, you can actually get a donation before the event if
Mhm.
someone cannot attend, if they're not so keen on raising the paddle live and being seen publicly doing that.
Yeah.
And it plants the seed right away. This isn't just an auction. This isn't just a party. This is mission. This is impact. And these are some of the biggest donations that we rely on. So I think from a technology standpoint, just getting that up and running as soon as you get everything else up and running, and start telling that story right away.
Yeah, we budget into every single budget for our events, pre-event donations that are
Yep.
coming in before the event fundraising even begins. And we usually see $3,000 to $5,000 raised just by having that active form
Yep.
of fund to need giving. And sometimes, to your point, Matt, some folks will attend the event and give again because they made that gift when they were making their ticket purchase.
The other thing that's really great about thinking through having that page up before the event, it also shows that folks and their organizations take fundraising seriously,
Yeah.
which is what we're
Yes.
always trying to encourage people to think about when they're thinking about sequencing their event and not leaving fundraising to being an afterthought
Yeah.
after the energy peak has been hit at their event.
Yeah.
Be clear, it's
Yeah.
good. It's good for you as an organization to name, this is our fundraising event. We take it seriously. We want you to have the information you need to understand what you need to make a compelling investment in our mission.
Yeah.
And by having the information there, you're planting that seed, and that's consistent throughout.
Absolutely. And with along with that page, there are a lot of things you can do, like simple things that you can do to really sell that and bring it home. And one of the things that I've seen that's been really impactful on a fund in need page is to just pop in an infographic.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, what uh, what's the impact? Who are we impacting? We've raised X amount of dollars with this fund in need over the past five galas that we've done, and we've been able to provide 2,000 families in need with food and shelter. We've been able to open up a new animal shelter. Whatever the impact is, tell the story with a really short, sweet. Because you don't have a lot of time or space to get this across, right?
Yeah.
So drop in an infographic, have a video embed. Maybe you don't want to release your night of
Right.
fund and need video in advance. I understand that, but surely you have some 2 to 3 minute impactful, mission-focused story, compelling video that you can just pop in and embed it on that page, and it fleshes the page out. And like with sponsorships, you generally will list the benefits available at each sponsor level,
Yeah.
or link out to a packet. Do the same with the fund and need. $10,000 provides this, and that. $5,000 provides this, and you can get really specific in a very short amount of time, I think.
Well, I don't think that people necessarily think of their event web page
Mm-hmm.
as doing more than just the details of who, what, when, where, why, but it could be actively engaging
It
people.
sets the stage.
Yeah.
Potentially. It could
Absolutely.
It could really be the start of some of those pieces for folks that carry through, or to your point too, folks who are not able to attend. It's more than just an invite in the mail that they go yes or no to. And if
Right.
they say no, they're kind of done. That this is
Right.
a more engaging way to do that. I'm wondering if you can talk about Greater Giving as a software platform has a lot of elements that users incorporate to augment their fund and need. Can you talk about display boards, campaigns, and recognition options, because they all tap into some key features
Mhm.
They
about
do.
why people give?
They do. And starting with that fund and need page. So again, I'm gonna keep comparing it to a sponsorship page because it's pretty analogous. On a sponsorship page, typically you have somewhere on the page, sidebar or maybe below the package options or above, you have a thank you to our amazing sponsors, and you've got logos. If you wanted to, and if you asked your fund and need donors, you could have something similar.
Mm.
So one of the options that Greater Giving provides, and that a lot of different platforms are going to provide, is at the time of donation, you can ask questions. How would you like to be recognized?
Mhm.
Would you
Yeah.
like to be recognized here on the site? If you're a business, certainly we could pull your logo in, or we'll make a nice little JPEG, with your name as a donor at this level. If you want to be anonymous, that's fine. I think you could also, if someone is not going to be in the room, but they want to give online, would you like a proxy paddle raise in the room and be acknowledged, from the
Mm.
stage in the room? So you could begin that acknowledgement piece right away on
Yeah.
that page. Greater Giving, like a lot of other platforms, has what we call a giving board display. So the giving board display is something that you can display kind of ongoing during the fund and need. You could display it at certain points. You could wait until afterwards, until the money kind of comes in and is tallied. But what that'll do, as people are giving in the room, you have a back end user who is just simply entering bid numbers.
Yeah.
Bidder 197,
Yeah.
$5,000, and their name and their bid number will flash in a special recognition piece. It'll be added to the total. The thermometer goes up, and it keeps up with that funding need as well as anything can. You
Yeah.
know how fast
Yeah.
they go, right?
Yeah.
We also have, as you know, a mobile bidding platform which has a donation button. So this is kind of a parallel track when it comes to a technology solution for fund and need, and you can tie those mobile bidding donations. Again, people who aren't in the room,
Yeah.
you've been very good about promoting hybrid auctions still since the end of the pandemic. So
Yeah.
people who cannot be there, or again, people who are just, they don't want to raise their paddle, they're a little more modest. At least their donation can flow into that total. So and there's some manipulation on the back end where you can add in other fundraising components if you want to, that aren't exactly in the room. But in the end, you can have a total that's real time, and you can have in the moment visual acknowledgement of the people who are donating.
Yeah.
Which, Susan Hallett,
I was
University
gonna
of
say same thing.
Washington,
Yeah.
3 major reasons people give: to be known, to be a part of something, and to make a difference.
Yeah.
And I think all of these pieces really tap into those key components for people. And while they may not be thinking of those top of mind when they're being utilized, the net sum effect of that when they are shown making a difference, that they're part of a collective mission to hit a thermometer goal, and that their mission, personal mission, and your organization's mission are in alignment.
Yeah.
Those are critical for people, not only in the moment to feel good about what they've done, but for the tail of that to carry them to continue supporting your organization. So while these are technology pieces, the chief goal of all of them is stewardship, right? It's stewardship in the
Yes.
moment and in a
Yeah.
responsible way that really calls attention to the fact that, hey, we told you this was a fundraiser. You decided to come and you decided to be a part of this in a really big way. We want to say thank you.
Yeah. It's interesting. The like pre-pandemic fundraising that we used to do so often, we never showed a thermometer. And
Yeah.
then your tools that you had in place we were able to adopt very quickly and say, what's possible? Like show us all the tools and then figure out how we could use those in a virtual setting. And now, post-pandemic, the work that we're seeing and the impact we're seeing using that giving board, using the opportunity to see collective action through a thermometer, seeing a goal through a thermometer. There's some tricks to it. You don't want to set a goal so high that it feels anticlimactic or so low that you like stop the fundraising. You want to have a strategy going in to know clearly, like, have I set my thermometer at the right level to drive giving and push your audience just a little to give more, but not necessarily so far that it's hard to reach. But we also saw that the addition of names, of seeing those names show up on the screen, has an interesting sort of opportunity to actually create peer pressure in the room, to create some, in moment recognition, like you said, stewardship happening. And now we rely on that as a way to give that sort of energy and momentum to the appeal. So you're not just going through a series of numbers, but you're actually seeing the names of who's giving. You're seeing that thermometer rise. It's funny, we've seen like thermometers rising quietly in the background as the auctioneer is getting ready to like introduce the next giving level, and it hits some goal or some large gift comes in, and the auctioneer is like, what is happening? And sees that the audience is tuned into that thermometer, and then we just hit that goal, or a big gift just came in. And the fact that we can utilize a hybrid environment because of these technology tools, almost every platform out there has started to integrate that ability for folks to be participating in the room with a paddle or participating at home with the donate button. And that's a really powerful sort of new technology that we've seen in the past couple of years.
It's the I was here.
Yeah.
Like I think about, I'm going to age myself right now and I'm okay with that. Think of the hours we used to spend to put my little initials into Miss Pac-Man on the board, right? But that same idea of I was here.
Yeah.
I did this. I made a difference in incorporating people into that.
And we've all seen it too. Like, you're at the $5,000 level, and just when you think you think it's wrapped up, and boom, another paddle goes up for 5,000. Like the energy is just it's. I don't know how to describe it. It's just it's crazy sometimes. It's contagious. Exactly.
Yes.
Well, and you said something that you alluded to that I want to highlight, which is you can acknowledge gifts that are not necessarily in the room.
Yeah.
So a pre-committed gift, maybe a donor is snowbirding for the season and they say, yes, we'll give, but we can't be at the event. You can acknowledge that in the same way everyone else is being acknowledged.
Yeah.
Or my favorite, a matching gift, a challenge where perhaps you have a corporate partner who's going to match the first 20 gifts of $500.
Yep.
When you hit that, you can drop that corporate partner's name in and see their name and see that the match was met. So there's a real opportunity to actually create more momentum utilizing these tools, which we're so grateful for because it's totally transformed what has become possible in that moment. Are you familiar, Matt, with Paul Zak?
I am not familiar with Paul Zak.
Paul Zak is a research social scientist who often gets hired around how to create influence around buying a product, giving to a nonprofit. And he has a book called Immersion in which he measured when folks leave an event or have an experience, how they rate it as a good experience. And one of the top elements that has to be included for folks to feel like it was a great experience is a call to action that is easy to participate in. And a fundraising event with that paddle raise, with that, big fund a need moment is that opportunity. And so for our friends who haven't done a paddle raise in the past, I encourage you, to research and understand what's possible with that, because it does change the satisfaction level for your guests.
This is good timing too, kind of just all related to what both of you are talking about. So in the New York Times today, December 3rd, happy Giving Tuesday, by the way,
Happy Giving Tuesday.
for our recording day, an article by, I don't know, I'm going to mess up her name probably, Robin Pogrobin, and it's about big auctions and galas, and it's a little bit geared more towards kind of the big fancy arts institution galas, but it talks also about, I don't know if you've seen this or not, but it talks about smaller cultural institutions too. And of course, it asks the questions like, are they still worth it? The margins are slim. It's so much work. All the questions that people continue to ask and reevaluate when it comes to these events. And it says here, and I'm going to quote her, that the experts say the events have value as crucial perks for donors and trustees whose giving year-round is often some multiple of what they might spend for a table at a gala. It is typically a night when their time and money is celebrated. It pulls your support group together for a moment of celebration and recommitment to an organization when everyone sees each other.
I think that's so critical. I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes, because I think what's specifically critical there for me is I am continually thinking about events and the technology solutions that get brought to events like Greater Giving, and how do those partners and solutions actually eliminate distance? How do we get donors closer to mission and get them closer to experiencing mission? And then when you bring all the neuroscience into it, when we can do that with a group of people together, the power is amazing. And so when we're talking about technology solutions, I think if people continue to think about them as, yes, they may be on your plate to implement and get set up, but what you're actually doing is eliminating barriers to entry for your donors. You are creating an experience, all the way to what you were talking about at the top about building that fund a need page early. You're eliminating barriers to people being able to understand what's asked of them, what they're doing it for, but most importantly, why we're all in this space together.
Well,
and I think one of those barriers that that technology can help remove, kind of democratize things. What about the donor who feels bad that they can't give enough? So, fund a need page or a donate button connected to a mobile bidding platform, or text to donate, or a QR code that connects to your donation page. Generally there is a fill in the amount that is comfortable for you. And that's hard. That's a little harder to do in the room. So that's a place where technology can kind of step in and say, it's all welcome. It's all really important.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Some of the best gifts that we've gotten have been, $9 from the 9-year-old who made a donation. And that's only possible in the online platform, because when we're raising those bid paddles, we're pre-establishing those giving levels. So when that online platform is active, all of a sudden you'll start to see people sharing stories or celebrating their 82nd birthday with an $82 gift, or their 10-year anniversary with a $10 gift. So there's some fun things that can occur when you have that. But we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, first we're going to hear a message from our partner, Greater Giving. And when we come back, we want to talk a little bit more about how you integrate this into a fundraising event. So we'll be right back with Matt. We've been partnering with Greater Giving for over 20 years as our go-to event auction software. Greater Giving allows us to do our job planning fundraising events even better, because we can manage guest lists, seating, bid number assignments, and sales all in one place.
That makes it great for our nonprofit partners and their guests. Check out Greater Giving for your next event at greatergiving.com. Link in the show notes. Welcome back to the Fundraising Elevator. We are here with Matt with Greater Giving. We are talking technology and the human connection and how to fund a need for your mission. We're big fans of nonprofits raising general versus restricted funds, because if the lights go out and you haven't built the pool, we need to keep the lights on. But specific targets can help donors see their personal mission in action. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the opportunity to offer donors the choice between contributing to general funds or specific causes and how you've seen that play out.
So with Greater Giving, most of our clients who have these types of large annual galas also use our mobile bidding platform. And mobile bidding is a great way, it's online silent auction. So it that kind of democratizes things for people as well who they may not be able to afford a whole lot, but they can certainly bid on some auction packages, and other people, it's part of the culture of the event that they're going to have these great, awesome, unique experiences to bid on and perhaps win. And experiences have been really growing. Buy-in parties have been really growing, but alongside these packages for bidding or for buy-in parties, you can have packages that are featured on your mobile bidding site that are donation packages. And this would be a spot for restricted funds, for targeted fundraising, where someone could click into a package and learn about the playground that needs to be rehabbed, about the animal shelter that needs help because it's in fear or in danger of closing. And in those, like a lot of platforms are going to have these options as well, but in those packages, you can, again, you're telling a little bit, you're telling a very specific story, and you can embed a video. You can link out to another site. You can have just you can have several different pictures there. You can have a one-stop, kind of one tile to learn about this specific need, and then you're going to have a different donation options within that specific tile. So you would set a minimum donation, maybe it's $25 or $50, and then people will be able to donate in increments of that minimum donation.
That's great.
And that would be separate from kind of the general fund donate button, which sometimes gets called virtual paddle raise, or fund a need would be the name of that button, right?
We've had organizations mid-capital campaign have that sort of conundrum about their annual gala, that their annual event tends to have its own budget for it, right? Its own like goal associated. And then the capital campaign is like what they're driving all their energy to right now, because that capital campaign is a big, heavy lift for them. And as their event approaches, inevitably the question comes up of, does the fund a need go to the capital campaign? And yet they need those funds that are unrestricted to literally, like you said, keep the lights on, pay a paycheck, keep their mission moving forward. And we've had organizations utilize exactly this, the online auction option, to be able to do things like buy a brick for the capital campaign, name a room in the capital campaign, where it's very specific, key targeted asks that goes out before, during, and after the event, reaches a much bigger audience. But then their big ask in the room that has all that momentum and energy around it can be dedicated to unrestricted funds. So we were late adopters in the online mobile giving and in the online auction world. But we have seen that the online auction platform is something that allows us a lot more versatility, including things like we just had an event that they did a big fair, and they were able to use that online tool for folks in advance to do things like purchase their raffle tickets and purchase their food tickets and their drink tickets, because it was treated more like a fair, but they were going to be outside where they didn't have internet connectivity. So people pre-purchased utilizing that tool. So I think the mobile giving is something that's allowed us to reach an audience a little bit differently. But you alluded to this briefly earlier, and I want to ask you to dive a little bit more into it.
Okay.
When do we do a fund a need? How do we integrate the fund a need into our event? And what does clear messaging to engage donors look like?
Well, I'm sticking with what you established back in the day. To be quite honest, that I have not found, if you're doing a live auction that has at least 7 or 8 items, 10 items for 10 lots up for auction, putting that fund in need in the middle is still the most effective thing that I've seen. Um, some people might need to leave early. You get them hopefully before they leave early.
Yeah.
You haven't exhausted people's energies. There's
Yeah.
still very specific fun experiences and things to bid on in the live auction later on, in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But right now, we're going to take some time and really drive home the mission before it gets too late and people have had uh, maybe a little too much to drink. People
Yeah.
tend to drink at these things, but having it in the middle, yeah, I think people still have things, very specific packages and lots to look forward to bid on, and let's just take our time right now to just really focus the room's attention on essentially why we're here, right?
There's a couple of things that we've seen really powerfully in that moment too, is that when the auctioneer already has the stage and the auctioneer is auctioning off all the great
Holding the
packages,
spotlight. Yes.
they're able to actually get the room attentive and focused for that moment. Versus if you were coming right out of another speaker on stage, you really want someone who's comfortable and knowledgeable with the fund a need to make sure that the audience is focused. But the other thing that we find is that, like you said, we hit them early so that they haven't had too much to drink. They're not ready to walk out the door yet. And it also is this natural sort of group dynamic where the energy is high and you're able to leverage fundraising in that moment when the energy is high versus waiting until the energy has dropped and people are ready to go home. So we believe in the same thing, that like middle high energy moment is the like right spot to be able to get them focused and attentive to your fundraising.
Well, the other thing too, when you're talking about energy, we have to look at percents in the room that are able to participate, right?
Yeah.
So before we go into the live auction, whole room is participating. We move into the live auction, and I mean, let's talk about the reality of the number of bidders that are actually in on any live auction item as a percent of the room, right? And then it
Right.
dwindles down to 2.
Always.
And so you aren't engaging the whole room. So if you have a decibel meter, actually when the live auction starts, the ambient noise picks way up because
Yeah.
You're
people
right.
are like, "Oh, cool, I'm out. I don't have enough money to buy live auction items
Yeah.
tonight," right? So you've just not boxed them out, but you've given permission for a huge percentage of your room to check out.
Yeah.
You will never get them back if you leave them in that state for a sustained period of time. So bringing everybody back to common mission again allows the second part of your auction to actually go better because there's
Yeah.
that pressure valve release. People are back into auction and then you kind of bring them back to close the program. But if you're looking at dynamics in a room, you constantly want to keep your eye on how much of the room am I targeting right now? How much of the room's attention do I have right now? And if you leave it in the hands of just a few people paying attention for an extended period of time, the rest of the room will never come back. And to not have them come back for your fund a need, your most critical fundraising moment of the night, you're in trouble.
Yeah. It's the big bucket of gold at the end of the
Big
rainbow.
bucket of gold.
Yeah, and and again, it's going to depend on the culture of the event. If you've established that, and perhaps for some, and I'm sure you've seen it work very well, where you could do a fund a need to kick off the live auction.
Yep.
Is your fund a need? Now, I have a lot of clients that they don't do live auctions; they do
Yeah.
fund a
Yes.
needs.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
they do quite well.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of organizations, that middle placement or doing it kind of in the maybe a third of the way into the live, it gives the auctioneer a chance to. And again, you're right in that not everybody in the room is going to be 100% engaged in the live auction, but if you get a few lots going, 3 or 4 maybe, it gives the auctioneer a chance to rev up. The auctioneer can so they're revving the room up, and then we're going to go in and rev them up even more in the fund and need. So it can kind of a few lots ahead can very often, I think, generate a head of steam that can translate to the fund and need if you've placed it properly.
Yeah.
Yep. You're also translating between transactional giving and relationship-based giving. And so being cognizant of which
Yes.
brake and gas pedal you're using can really set you up for a great fundraising strategy. Speaking of which, we're all about hybrid event strategy. How can folks tailor mobile bidding for hybrid events, making sure that both the in-room and the at-home audience?
That's a great question, and I wanted to go back. This this first part of the answer may not address that directly, but I do want to. I want to go back to something that would be works well for in-person events, for virtual only and hybrid, and that's this idea of a buy-in party. Some people call them sign-up parties, and that's where you could have 20, 30 slots. Schools do it very well, and talk
Yep.
about regional cultural differences, regional differences. Schools in Texas love it.
Yeah.
So
schools everywhere kind of
Yeah.
love it.
school, all right, good. 20, 30 spots available for a barbecue and bourbon party, for a pickleball and lunch party on a Saturday, or for a sixth grade going into seventh grade party.
Yeah.
And these can be, usually the host puts it on, they're donating.
Yeah.
Those can be. I've seen those used for targeted funds as well. So it doesn't just have to be a donation package. All the proceeds from this sign up party goes towards this specific fund that we're trying to raise money for.
Yeah, the sign up parties, especially in the school environment, to me extend the social gathering because it's an opportunity for you to reconnect and have another social engagement. We have worked traditionally with this high school that their biggest fundraising sort of package every single year, they put together silent auction, an online auction, and a live auction. And traditionally, their biggest fundraising package they do is a sign up party in which a group of teachers put on two events, the adult event and the student event. And the student event is a slumber party at the school. So they get food and all night and they're up all night and they have, activities in the gym. And then the adult party is a party. And so they get that opportunity to sort of extend that relationship.
In terms of, a hybrid solutions, a couple things come to mind. And one is video embed.
Yep.
So if you are live streaming any portion of your event, you definitely want to live stream the hybrid, and you can embed that right into the Greater Giving mobile bidding platform.
Yeah.
And you can also message people through the platform, send a text message to say, hey, Fund a Need or live starts in 30 minutes. So keep them up to speed with what's happening in the room. You don't necessarily have to broadcast the whole thing, but if you're you definitely want to broadcast the Fund a Need, though, if you're going to do it, and use the messaging and use video embed along with that donate button. So sort of a three-headed, three-tiered tech strategy there to keep your at-home hybrid people engaged.
Yeah. Well, you all taught us a lot very quickly when we were diving into the world of virtual fundraising events. And we've had a lot of organizations that have retained pieces of that because they found success, that they've stripped their silent auction completely out of their event and now have an online auction. The text to give option, or the text to your donor option, is something that was a total game changer, though, because we could now have a much bigger audience that we were saying, auction bidding is now open. You have another, 10 hours to bid. You only have another hour, last chance to bid. And I've seen that ability to communicate directly via text is actually meeting our donors where they're at more frequently, because we see that they're responsive to those texts, different than emails, for sure.
Well, and what's critical for me is when you do that, theoretically, there's a link right there.
Right.
That I
Right
just
there.
click on. I don't have to go back through 50 million emails
Nope.
and or some calendar invite. Like, the ability to get people what they need to be able to participate without a barrier is very clear.
Yeah.
And with a mobile bidding platform like Greater Giving's, that link is their link. So they're not going to a page, not necessarily going to a page where they have to, enter credit card information or kind of start from scratch. They've already been bidding on something. This will be added to the tally. It's right there.
Yeah.
There's no other sign in needed.
Yep.
Well, one of the things that we've been thinking about with the hybrid space is all of the different ways that technology is informing how we do events now. And so I think in the coming year, we're going to see a lot of change. I think that we're going to continue to see organizations look for how do we do things now? How do we do things differently? And in that, I'm just curious about what are all the key ways that you think a fundraising software can enhance that fundraising engagement at an event?
Um, Again, kind of going through my sort of my mental list of solutions. Starting with that really fleshed out fund a need portion of your event site,
Mm-hmm.
and then carrying that over to the mobile bidding platform with the general funds donate button that's set up like a virtual paddle raise, and
Mm-hmm.
calling it a virtual paddle raise or fund a need rather than just donate, and have some really well curated standalone donation or sign up party packages where the funds go to very specific needs. I mean, I think those are, and the messaging component. I think those are three of the biggest components there. And getting a little bit outside of just fundraising standalone, fundraising software standalone. Most fundraising softwares have the ability to have some email marketing as well.
Yeah.
And as you're there's lots of things you can do. You can take a segmented list of everybody who's donated the funding need the past 5 years and send them a special invite,
Yep.
a targeted invite.
Mm.
You can, any kind of email marketing campaign, you want to, again, this is a year-round story,
Yeah.
right? So you want to be weaving together in the email text solution, the social media reach out solution. You want to be weaving that fund and need story and that impact and the ask all throughout. It's not something that just happens, the day of, like, hey, here we are. Now we got a funding need. You know what that is? I mean, again, to use your words, plant the seed and just plant it early and often, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I think that one of the key things you bring up there that almost sort of could quickly go away, but I want to bring back in center is year-over-year data.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And segmentation is real, and
Yeah.
taking a look at
Yep.
performance is real, and starting to break things down and to actually reach out to donors and groups of donors with what they're actually doing versus aspirational
Yeah. I actually,
sort of wishing.
It's funny because we just had this happen where we had an organization having their event. We were actually out of town producing another event, so we weren't able to be at their event. And we had attended previously, we had given previously, and the development director clearly had segmented his list in Greater Giving because I got a communication directly from him that said, I see that you're not able to join us this year. Would you make a donation in lieu of attendance? And at that point, because we knew the team that was planning the event, we knew the event was sold out. They had a full room.
Yep.
And now he was doing a sort of preemptive ask of everyone who hadn't RSVP'd. Now, my guess is he got a few folks that said, wait a minute, I would like to attend.
Right.
But mostly they did a lot of pre-event fundraising that way by segmenting their data. So I think my favorite thing about event platforms and fundraising tools is that you all at Greater Giving are taking the time to be the experts so that the nonprofit doesn't have to be. But there are so many tools sometimes within any platform, whether it be Greater Giving or another platform. There are so many tools that I think sometimes understanding what's possible becomes one of the biggest needs. And so we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, Matt, I want to ask a little bit about how folks get more information and can really understand what's possible with their software using their technology for their event. So we'll be right back.
Unleash the power of events to energize your donors and amplify your mission. Join us at the Elevate Conference in 2025, where you'll learn the essential tools for planning a successful fundraising event. Book your tickets now for March 12th and 13th. This dynamic hybrid conference, hosted at Avenue in Portland, Oregon, and streamed live for our virtual audience, will equip you with practical tools, demos, and templates that you can put to work immediately. Don't miss out. Secure your spot today at Elevate 2025. Visit elevatenonprofit.com to register now. Elevate Conference 2025 is brought to you by Swaim Strategies and the AV Department, powered by elevatenonprofit.com.
Welcome back to the Fundraising Elevator. We're here with Matt from Greater Giving. Matt, this is the time in the show where we ask all of our guests to join us in the Fundraising Elevator. We are all headed up, And we want to ask you for a tip or a piece of sage advice for our fundraising superheroes out there so that they can also continue heading up. What would that be?
Wow, how do I narrow that down?
Right?
That's a great question. I think from what I've seen working with organizations of all different sizes who um, some are brand new to greater giving and like, what do I do? I just opened the box. Where do I start? And some have more experience in greater giving than I do. Um, knowing who does what on these 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 galas have so many moving parts,
Yep.
Yeah.
right? They're a lot to pull off.
Yep.
And so I think very early on, establishing roles like you're in charge of the event website,
Mm.
but I want you to go in and really mine the data of this, mine the supporter data and the giving history, and give me a breakdown of all your funding need, all of our funding need donors the past 5 galas. You're our reporting and data expert. You're our event website expert. Person number 3, I want you to own the online bidding. And
Mm.
so not a lot of organizations don't have that opportunity. You kind of
Right.
have to like split yourself and clone yourself, and we all know, right?
Yeah.
But kind of pretend that you have different people, and then maybe and that's a way of segmenting, to use that word again, to segment your own time and role
Yeah.
so that you understand the importance of each of those pieces, so that when they start to really mishmash and come together, it's not like, oh my gosh, who's going to take care of that, or when do I do this? I'm the only one doing it. You've got a game plan. Think about it as opening night, right? You're 6 months from opening night, and you're going to be scheduling that out and assigning roles and assigning yourself roles that
Yeah.
are really specific from the get-go.
Yep. And I think people thinking about parsing it out perhaps over time
Yeah.
too. We can't know everything there is to know about a piece of technology and maximize it out of the gate necessarily. If you don't have a development team that's 5 to 10 deep, if it's just you, chase the biggest potential for money.
Yeah.
Chase the relationships. Chase that special appeal, that fund a need, and take
Yeah.
a look there. And then pick the next piece you're going to tackle and the next piece. But I think continuing to center the donor relationship and the things that support that, that's where the success for the event's going to come as you're navigating some of the technology pieces and platform.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? So you have this software technology, this fundraising software. It's not like companies are throwing that at you and like saying good luck. Like
Right.
we want to help you. We're in the same space as
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So from a greater giving perspective, I mean, you can call us on the phone, you can chat, you can send us an email. I mean, we want to work with you. Like, we want to engage with you. We don't want to just sit back and see the numbers flow in and not talk to anybody. Like, we learn from we learn how to make our software better. We learn how to make our support model better. We learn about fundraising trends like sign up parties by talking to people. Like, we're here to help you, and any fundraising software platform that's worth it is going to have that same attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's one. I mean, we've worked with you all before Greater Giving. You were Auction Pay, and before that, you were Archetype. We've worked with you since you were Archetype,
Mhm.
and one of the things I think that's
Wow.
been a constant is
Yeah.
that Greater Giving always has a tech support option on the other end that actually picks up the phone,
Yeah.
that actually knows how to answer
Yeah.
your question or is willing to dive into it with you. But you have a lot of other resources on the website. You have a lot of other tools. How do people find out more if they want to know about Greater Giving or they want to better utilize their tool as their event is coming up? What would you recommend folks dive into?
To learn more about greater giving from a larger perspective, if you're not a customer, or if you're a newer customer, and you want to find out some of the kind of the full suite of solutions, just
Mhm.
simply go to greatergiving.com. There's a solutions tab. We also have a great resources tab with blog articles, and we've got
Yeah.
webinars that are recorded. I mean, we pull in, experts like the two of you, our partners. I mean, we're partners. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's partner in the true sense of the word. And so there's a wealth of just flat out expert advice that's available on greatergiving.com, not only about the platform, but about fundraising tips, strategies, and trends and best practices. In terms, once you are a customer of Greater Giving and you want to dive deeper into the solutions, we have an excellent help center. And I don't
You
mean that as
do.
sort of a cop out, like, hey, go to the help center, look it up, good luck. It's shout out to my colleague Rachel Augusti, Rochelle Augusti, our help center guru. She's built out an amazing help center. It's easy to use. You can find anything related to Greater Giving in that help center, and you can just also, again, just call us or chat with us. We are happy to show you step by step how to do stuff in the software. And if you hadn't already, all new customers and new users are eligible for what we call a kickoff call. And that's kind of our way of saying onboarding. So
Yeah.
you get some initial one-to-one training with a human being over a video call. If you haven't taken advantage of that, and that person will help you kind of synthesize some of these things that you might be learning that you saw on the website or that you saw in the help center. So we're there not only to show you that stuff from the get-go, but to then help you synthesize it as well.
Yeah. Well, I have to give a shout out to Mary Elizabeth on our team, who is our operations and systems expert. And she knows it like inside, like the back of her hand. She knows Greater Giving, and she is always there to be able to support. And one of her biggest assets is that she says that the customer support team at Greater Giving is always there when she has a question or a need. So we will create a link so that in the show notes you can find the support tab. We hope that folks will join us. Upcoming, we have the Elevate Conference. It is a deep dive 2 days into fundraising events, and Greater Giving is going to be there. They're going to be there to demo their product, answer questions, be able to provide a lot of education for you, but also be able to have conversations about how Fund a Need works and how to integrate that into your fundraising model. So we hope folks will jump on swaimstrategies.com and check out Elevate. And Matt, we're just so grateful that you all get to be the technology experts and we can lean on you for experience. We don't have to be innovating in the world of AI and technology and tools out there. So thank you for your ongoing partnership, and thank you to Greater Giving for supporting us in this podcast. And we're so glad to have you on today. We appreciate your time.
I really appreciate being here. And like I said, I going back several years now, we've been on site together at dozens of events, and I've learned so much, so much from the two of you, and your team is so professional. No, if Swaim Strategies event runs on time and on script, and not not too not like a too rigidly, but I mean, just I can at one of your events, I can just trust that it's going to happen as intended, and that's really important. So thank you for your partnership.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's because we have awesome partners like you.
It's true.
And so we hope folks will click on all the links, learn a little bit more about the technology options that are out there. And Matt, thank you for joining us today. We hope you have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
The Fundraising Elevator is produced in partnership with Swaim Strategies at the studios of the AV department. The program is produced and directed by Steve Osborne, with audio engineering and original music by Dwayne Anderson, Heidi Christensen, and Adam Breeden. Video production by Shannon Doran. Graphic design by Pendulum Creative Group. Marketing by Lisa Aragon. Support from Mary Elizabeth, Todd Campbell, John Lyles, and Andy Dowsett. And voiceover by Josh Boykin.
Friends, before we leave you, we want to ask for your help to make the podcast grow. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please follow, subscribe to the Fundraising Elevator. And if you're getting a lot out of the show, please share it with a friend and leave a review. These things help make sure that the podcast continues heading up. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Event planners are discovering Avenue, the Pacific Northwest's new AV-forward event venue, intentionally designed with nonprofit fundraising events in mind. From the 93-foot video production wall to the highest quality sound and lighting, premier AV features are included in every venue rental. You'll find the space and audiovisual enhancements to create your unique and memorable event. Visit avenueportland.com to schedule your personal tour.